Hey guys out there, I'm showing you this chart of the 23rd of January 2026. It's Penelope. So I'm in London and I'm aware behind the scenes. Been looking at the astrology. I sort of look quite regular. I'm aware of where the moon is every day and what's going on with the cycles. And we do know that we have Saturn here. If you can see this cross here, in fact, if I get the marker and I can show you. So what you have is that at the moment, I'll run from the top of the chart. This is an Aries beginning of the chart to simplify things. And we have Mars at the moment that's moved into the sign of Aquarius. This cycle is a 2-year cycle with Mars, and it goes retrograde once every 2 years. There's Venus the same, once every 2 years it goes retrograde. Bit of education for all of us, and unless you know already. And then with this Mars in Aquarius, it's about fighting for just causes, and it's also where we, as a humanity, even in our own lives, depending on where it is, where we can maybe a bit unpredictable, and where we can have rebellion and anger come up, but there's a lot of that going on in the world at this time, different places that we're all aware of, depending where we are. And we have Mars will be coming up to Pluto in about 5, 6 days' time. And we have this Pluto conjunct the Sun at the moment. We also have Mercury tied in there. So this is really, they're all very much conjunct as we speak. This is a big thing going on, and they're all in Aquarius, and also we got Venus in Aquarius also. And I'll come into the 12th house. It's not the 12th house as such in our own charts. I've got 27 degrees Scorpio rising. So for me, all of this is in my second house at the moment for me, all of these planets. So you want to look to your own chart with what's going on. The interesting thing is that there are some nice aspects going on here, and particularly that all of this is in a trine to Uranus, which is currently retrograde here. But in a couple of weeks, it won't be retrograde. We can look, I will be able to move the chart and show you day by day what's going on here. So we need to be able to utilize, when we look at a chart, we can utilize it to sort of think about what is best for ourselves at this time, depending on the house these planets fall into and what area of life it's touching upon. So for me, this would be my second house, and then the planets down here are in my fourth house. And for me, my fourth house is 20, starts at 20 degrees, the IC starts at 20 degrees of Pisces, and it ends at 12 degrees of Aries. So these are going to be, Saturn and Neptune are going to be in my fourth house for quite some time. And then I think by June that Saturn will move into my fifth house temporarily before it retrogrades back into four. But let's have a look here for everybody what's going on. So we know that the North Node is 9 degrees of Pisces, which will then move, all of the planets move clockwise around the chart, apart from the nodes, which go, sorry, this way. So the nodes move this way. So the node will be moving into Aquarius also. And we can do a brief check to see when that is. So when we look at Pluto in Aquarius, this is where humanity is forced to change the way science is viewed. It's a generation that can and will do, no doubt, make scientific breakthroughs for the benefit of humanity. The cycle of Pluto is 248 years. However, it can be spend up to 12 to 32 years in a sign, depending on the sign that it takes slower through to move through some signs than others, which I haven't investigated fully yet, but I maybe will do that. The sun takes a year around the chart. So the sun in Aquarius it indicates that we're a bit unconventional at this time and unpredictable, and we can also be innovative and inno sorry, get me. And then also where we, can have original ideas that may sort of go against convention. And this can lead to ideas that we've never thought of before. This can even be with the healing work that we're doing internally. We may see something in a different way, an unexplored territory, and it can be exciting as well. It's a quest, how do I heal this? How do I figure this problem out? And there can be rebellion again. So you can see this whole thing up here is rebellion. If we look at the idea that Uranus will move into Gemini within the coming months, that we can see that that is also Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, or Uranus is ruled also, it's Uranian. So it's worth knowing that energy is about breaking free of limitation, and it's also about individuation, which is not about becoming sort of, exiting from people. It's more about becoming whole. So when we're individuated, we become more whole within ourselves, which is a lifelong journey, because every day that we wake up, for many of us, we have new insights, and we have this Gemini, which is the mind, ruler Mercury, Uranus there. There will be some very insightful changes. Also, it's our communication, short travels, and our connection to our local environment in Gemini. With the upcoming Saturn, Neptune, I'll talk about that in a moment, conjunction, which is happening in February. I think it's the 20th. And then we have the moon currently right now in the sign of Aries. The moon takes 30 days around, 30 days around the chart, roughly. But it's works that it's 2.5 days roughly per sign. Chiron is also the wound. It's coming to the end of being, it's very slow moving because it takes 50 years, but it's coming towards the end of being in the sign of Aries, slowly but surely. And this is where the wounded, where we've been wounded emotionally. And it can also be that when we experience our essential being, that we may have felt experiences of rejection, which I think for a lot of us, it's been very difficult the last 5 years in particular, with what went on 2020, and a lot of us have experienced this in ways maybe that we haven't so much before. And it's about self-exploration, and it's where we do in time. We don't realize it, but our own wounding, whatever that is, that can be a powerhouse for us to then step into helping people in the arena where we once suffered, which can be very helpful in society. Particularly with lived experience, we can have a lot to offer people who are trying to solve problems in their lives. And then we have this, I'm going to move the chart forward, 1 day, 2 days. So I'm going to show you, if you look at Neptune here, it's the 26th of January. This is the UK chart, but if you're in the USA, you can say it's dependent on where you are. You're either 5 hours behind or 6 hours behind or 8 hours behind, depending on where you are. So this Neptune in Aries is quite exciting to me. It did enter Aries, I think last year, can't remember the exact date, but the interesting thing is that it's back in Aries, which is the beginning of the chart, maybe not of our own charts. For me, it's my 4th house. And this is where we can have a generation now, particularly kids being born in this time, a generation that has the potential to be spiritual pioneers. We can do that ourselves. Take the word spiritual as whatever you mean for yourself, but it's a higher way of being, living, existing in my terms. So that's would be where we become whole and that we have, something that can really help people or pioneer something that's really useful. And it's also where we will boast many pioneers in the arts as well. So Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and but now it's going into the sign of Aries. So if you take Saturn, I've just had my second Saturn return because if I go back a couple of days, literally because my Saturn is 2737 degrees. So I'm experiencing my second Saturn return at this time, which is about self-authorship, meaning that you come into your own and you reflect on your past, and it's a time of great maturity, the wisdom, all of the wisdom that one carries. So it's a big moment for a lot of people, this second Saturn return. The first one happens when we're about 28, 29, 30. And we're going to look, if I go ahead, I think it's around the 4th of February. Let's see. Nope, it is, there you go. So the 15th of February, 14th of February, we have Saturn in the sign of Aries, which is about our resources and where we can be resourceful, capable of applying new methods. So it's about being resourceful and capable of applying new methods in a practical manner. So you can see where it's hitting Neptune with making dreams come true. It's not about losing ourselves. We need to approach things in a practical manner and apply methods that are likely to work. And also, the situation for all of us is that we will be looking at patience and self-reliance. So there is very little point in losing patience or not having self-reliance during this period. And there are people in the world that go through very difficult times and they do need help. So this does not apply to very much out of control situations. For instance, there are people in war zones, there are people going through very challenging times physically and mentally at this time also. So it's being aware that for those that have got the ability to, be resourceful and be patient and help others as well. It's having patience with all of those around us to the degree that we are also looking after ourselves and we've got self-reliance and self-resilience. So this Neptune will remain in the sign of Aries for 14 years. It's a very slow moving planet and it's a 164-year cycle. Saturn is 2.5 to 3 years a sign. It will go direct and then it will go retrograde a couple of times within this zone of Aries. And then we have Uranus, which is at 27 degrees of Taurus, and it did move into the sign of Gemini, and then it retrograded back. So this is about our resources, money, food, and Bitcoin, all of these things, money, the fiat coins, or fiat, the money that we're using, and land as well. And the ruler is Venus of Taurus. So if we look, I'm going to take this now weeks ahead, and we're going to look at this conjunction, see when this happens actually. This is the 20th. So if you can see here, it's the 21st. Let's go one day back. They're both at 20. So Saturn's actually moved over because Saturn moves much quicker. Neptune is 164 years and Saturn is about 29 on average. So if we go hours, and do know that when I show you this chart, I'm doing this from London, so you can apply whatever time zone and then subtract or add whatever hours you're in if you want to know the exact time this conjunction is happening. So we've got, if I go back 1 hour, there you go. So you see 0045, that's the main conjunction. It's the 20th of February 2026. And then we also, that day, will have the moon will be in Aries also. And we still got Chiron in Aries for some time. I think it's going to go retrograde this year. So it's in Aries for quite a period of time because it's taking 50 years to go around the chart, if I haven't already said that. And then I want to see now the Uranian energy, Uranus move into Gemini because I've got a 0 degree in my chart, a 0 degree 16 Gemini sun. So this will be on my sun, which is quite exciting. I experienced it a little bit last year and it was a bit electrifying on the brain I think in a good way. It's like knowing it's nice that it went retrograde because I've now experienced it. I can handle it in a different way as it goes direct this time, which will mean more grounding work in the body. You know, I use a grounding sheet on my bed, you know, a silver cotton grounding sheet on my bed, but I also use, as I sit at my laptop, you can sit, if you're, you know, at home, particularly, you can do barefoot and you can have a grounding pad under your feet, which is excellent to keep the body grounded. So here, I'm going to now look at where we're heading with the Uranus energy. So I'm going to go days. If it goes forward, is it moving? Let's see. I think it got stuck for a minute there. So let's go days. It's not responding for a minute, but hopefully it will. There you go. Now it's gone too fast. So days, we're looking at Uranus, bottom of the chart, the blue symbol. And we're seeing that it will be 29 degrees in April. And then it will enter, there you go, 00 on the 27th, 26th of April. So we have a lot to consider at this time because I don't think with the Neptune Saturn that we can really tell where we're heading. It's very interesting times. I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck to say that, but I've heard that saying it's interesting times can be not so good thing to say, but that's where we're at. And actually on the 26th of April, it's interesting that we have that Mars move over. That's action. So that will activate. That will be like an activator. That's the 12th of April, Mars in Aries, and which is, it's at home there. And then it will move over Neptune, and then it will move over Saturn. So you can see the difference, how quickly from February it gets to 6 degrees. And then by May, I think Pluto will go retrograde. So it will all be changing as we go. Anyway, I hope that's useful and a bit of a helps people with a bit of a learning curve looking at your own astrology. And I do read astrology. I also do hypnosis. I've trained in that. I'm certified and insured. So I can help people with things that also I do peer support work for a clinic in London where I'm helping people who've had a specific type of trauma. So if you can think if there's anything that I could help you with, then you can check out my webpage, which I'll put below the video to see what I'm about. Thanks for listening, and I'll hopefully make another video in the coming week or so.